Okay, this could be interesting. Sorry, I'm running a little bit late, as always. But I'm running my Hangout on Air from my new location. This is the first time since I relocated about 4 months ago that I'm running a Hangout from here. If you've been following my social media posts, you would know that I've had all sorts of problems trying to get my cable internet basically moved to this place, and hopefully it holds up. We will see what happens. But I am doing Sabah today, and as you can see, no expense spared in the production of this little broadcast because if you think my Jackie M sign that used to be in my studio, if those look suspiciously like close pegs to you that are holding them up, yeah, you're right, they are. Okay. Now, Sabah, for the uninitiated, is located in the Borneo, which is a different landmass to the basically where Kuala Lumpur and all the major better known places in Malaysia are located. Okay, so in Borneo you've got Sabah and Sarawak, both owned by Malaysia, and then you've got the Kingdom of Brunei, and you've got Indonesia. And but Sabah is semi-autonomous, and I had the pleasure of visiting the place for the first time about 6 weeks or so ago, and it was fantastic. And I went there courtesy of Tourism Sabah and courtesy of Shangri-La Rasa, which is incredibly, incredibly beautiful, a resort. So if ever you plan to go to Sabah, it's basically positioned itself as something of a kind of like an environmental tourist hotspot. It's lots and lots of very, you know, strong environmental message pitching in that part of the world. Very fascinating. And anyway, I was there only for 2 days, sadly, but I had some of the, actually, I'm not kidding, I had some of the best food I've ever had over in Sabah. And now, when you ask people about what Sabah is known for, they kind of like struggle in terms of like its more iconic dishes. I was asked to try something called Sabah vegetable. I was thinking, what's Sabah vegetable? And they said, there's this girl on Facebook who's from Sabah. She goes, oh, just ask around. Everyone will know what you mean when you ask for Sabah vegetable, okay? And unfortunately, it's not available here in Australia as far as I'm known, as far as I know. But Sabah vegetable is what they call in Sabah sayur manis, which literally in Malay means sweet vegetable. And this setup here, if you remember me from my Darlinghurst days, I had a proper studio, and now if this looks like a backyard, it is a backyard because I've moved into, someplace way, 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 way out west, and I'm using the backyard as my new studio for the moment. Okay, and the great thing is that I've got like a herb garden just right up the back. Okay, so like I said, close pegs holding up my old Jackie M sign, which goes to show anyone. I was actually quoted in the newspapers once saying, there's nothing to stop people nowadays in terms of essentially having their own TV program as long as they have an internet connection and a webcam. And they probably thought I was kidding at the time, but clearly I'm not, as you can see. There's not a lot that goes into this setup. But anyhow, now Sabah. Okay, now one of the meals that I had when I arrived over in Sabah, okay, I had both the Sabah vegetable because I specifically asked for it thanks to the lady on Facebook who recommended it. Unfortunately, I can't remember who exactly it was. I know she was a Sabah native. But the other thing was we were taken to this seafood restaurant, and I guess that's one way to define Sabah. They're big on their seafood, their fresh seafood, and it's absolutely, absolutely delicious. My traveling companion, Mr. Rob Demrus, who's also my co-presenter in the show we had just finished shooting over in the Peninsula, Malaysia, was in Sabah with me, and of course to him, seafood, being a Westerner and being American, when they talk about shellfish and they talk about lobster and that sort of stuff, he really just wanted something fairly, I guess, straightforward. So he specifically asked for lobster with butter sauce. Okay, now therein lies the catch, because I know a lot of my followers on Google Plus are actually American. But when you think lobster with butter sauce, okay, I've been to Boston, okay, and they literally serve steamed or poached lobster with essentially melted butter. Okay, that's the Western or American definition of a butter sauce. So he asked for that, got the the waiters and the hosts a little bit confused by what he meant by butter sauce, because they say, oh, we can cook it in butter sauce. And no, 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 I don't want it cooked. I just want the lobster steamed and then separately served with some butter sauce. Okay, and when the sauce came out, he was fairly horrified because it looked nothing like basically melted butter. But I'm going to show you what we Malaysians mean by butter sauce. And so I'm going to do it not with lobster, sadly. I don't have the budget for lobster. But I'm using prawns here. Okay, these are fair-sized prawns, so they're not half bad at all. I'm just trimming them a little bit now. I'll just cut them down the middle here. Okay, I've kept the shells on. Malaysians or Asians generally like to keep our shells on with our seafood. Okay, and I'm just going to drench it with a little bit of just a little bit of tapioca flour. In the meantime, I've just got this wok here, and sadly, I can't quite get the light to hit it. Let me just see if I can move it across over here. Okay, just got to be a little bit careful. Of course, I should have. There you go, this beautiful alternative. Is that any clearer? I'm not sure if it is. Okay, but we'll see how we go. I'm just going to wipe this mess up a little bit. Okay, so I'll move the wok over here. Not much better, but anyway, we'll leave it here since it's not no worse anyway. And I've just got this tapioca starch over here. Very handy. Got the prawns over here. Just going to drench it a little bit. I'm not putting any seasoning on it or anything like that. The tapioca starch just basically helps absorb some of the moisture, and it will just prevent it from spitting too much, okay? So what I'm going to do, two things. I'm going to do prawns in this Malaysian butter sauce, and I'm going to do, I'm just going to try and strain this a little bit more, and I'm going to do the Sabah vegetable without the Sabah vegetable, and I've managed to dig out some old salted fish, and I've got some garlic as well. So let's see how we go. First of all, I'm just going to flash fry these prawns, okay? It doesn't help that this thing isn't fitting very well. That's the problem with these cheap woks, okay, because they don't balance very well. They just have a tendency to slide. But as you can see, as per what I've done up until this point in time, I'm using a cheap camping stove, essentially to show you that you don't need any kind of like special gear to be able to produce this. It'd be nice if you do, but I don't have any special gear. So it's a good opportunity for me to show you just a cheap little camping stove is adequate for you to be able to cook a lot of Malaysian dishes. Okay, so there you go. And speaking of which, I mentioned the Shangri-La Rasa resort. It's about 45 minutes out of the center of town, but it's really, 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 really beautiful. There's another Shangri-La right in the middle of town. It's called the Tanjung Aru. I haven't been there, but apparently Prince William and Kate stayed there when they were over in Malaysia. But Rasa is just absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. When we turned up, they have a traditional gong at the entrance that you're supposed to hit. So it's so incredibly quaint. And if you know anything about the Shangri-La, the novel at all, there's a novel called The Lost Horizon, which they made a movie out of. And I want to blog about this really, really badly because I just haven't had the time as yet. But if you go, yeah, basically you check into your room at the Shangri-La, any Shangri-La, I think, you know, because I stayed there a couple when they both had them. At the Shangri-La, there'll be a book sitting by the bedside or on the bed called The Lost Horizon. And that's the novel written by, I'm going to get slaughtered for this because I can't remember who wrote it, but it's a novel about these people who got stranded, I think because of a plane crash. And they discovered Shangri-La, okay, where nobody gets old. And it's got some of the most beautiful, beautiful music. that I remember from my childhood. So it's fairly kind of like nostalgic for me to come across these kinds of cultural references. Okay, but anyway, that's the prawns. Quickly flash fried. This is my usual camping stove. It's a little bit weaker in its flame, but it should be okay. I've got the prawns out of the way. Now I'm going to just shift to this non-stick pan here. Just gonna heat it up a little bit, okay? And the old butter sauce. Now, it's great if you can get curry leaves. I couldn't find them today, so I'm going to leave it out. But what I'm using for the butter sauce is evaporated milk here, or carnation milk at your local supermarket, easily found. But surprisingly, because I first did my shopping at the Asian grocery stores near me, which is Cabramatta. And it just shows how different, like, you know, Cabramatta basically, if for the those outside of Australia, Cabramatta is kind of like a hub of Indo-Chinese settlers, and a lot of their products and that sort of stuff are Indo-Chinese geared. The grocery stores and all that carry a lot of Southeast Asian ingredients that geared towards Indo-Chinese cooking. We're talking Vietnamese, Laotian, that sort of stuff. And at every grocery store, I asked them, "Oh, do you carry evaporated milk?" They had no idea what I was talking about. Okay, whereas in Malaysia, you shouldn't have any trouble finding this at all. And I ended up having to go to my local Coles over here, and they said, "Yeah, carnation, no problems," you know, at the coffee section. Okay, so like I said, this thing is fairly weak, so it's just going to take a couple of minutes to heat up. But I got butter also from my local supermarket. Everyone knows butter. And I've got this is just like frozen sliced bird's eye chilies. Okay, like I said, I've got a little herb garden at the back, courtesy of my stepmom, and she's been planting her own chilies and all that, and then freezing them. Okay, she very diligently slices them into thin slices and then sticks them into little tubs and freezes them, which is just perfect for my needs. This flame looks like it's about to go out, but let's see how we go. And what I want is garlic. Okay, I've got some minced garlic over here, a little bit of minced garlic, and of course, yeah, chicken seasoning. If you remember me from my good old days at my Dala Studios, my trusty old chicken seasoning, a very popular ingredient in a lot of Malaysian cooking, also known as chicken stock granules, that sort of stuff, or if you can't find them, chicken stock cubes would do. But you go shopping in a Malaysian supermarket, there'll be rows and rows of these, okay? Not so much in Australia. You have to look a little bit harder, but like I said, stock cubes will do the job. I don't think they're quite an exact match. Still a bit, but I'm just going to replace this anyway because it's taking a little bit longer than I want. In the meantime, I just want to talk about salted fish. I don't actually use salted fish a lot in my cooking, but I spent minutes digging through the stuff I have in storage, and I found some salted fish. Okay, this here is from Malaysia. It's called mergui fish. Okay, and in Malay it's called ikan kurau, and this is what it looks like. It's dried and salted, folded in half, cut and folded in half. I'm just going to soak this in some water. I don't know how it'll turn out. Like I said, I don't use it a lot. Okay, and usually with stir fries with vegetables and that sort of stuff, usually you would stir fry with garlic and oyster sauce. I've got some oyster sauce on standby here, and what I'm going to do with it as well, I'm going to thicken up the sauce a little bit with some tapioca starch as well. Tapioca starch, again, is kind of like the Asian cornstarch or corn flour. Okay, so you can't find tapioca starch, just use cornstarch. I'm just melting the butter over here. Okay, and like I said, curry leaves if you have it. If not, leave it out. Got that going. It's gonna need a. There you go. I'm not kidding when I said this thing has been sitting like gathering dust. My whole setup here has been gathering dust for the last 4 months since I relocated, waiting for good old Telstra to sort out my internet connectivity issues. Okay, stuck some garlic in, just putting in some chili. Okay, so just fry it up, and then you just want to bring out the flavor of the garlic without burning it to a crisp. Okay, so just gently saute it. I can just smell it quite strongly now. It's very nice and aromatic, and I'm just pouring in some evaporated milk now. Okay, just keep stirring it, and you want your chicken stock granules, just a pinch of it, okay, and a pinch of sugar. Like I said, if you've got curry leaves, you would add it in right about now. Let it simmer. And I'm just going to throw the prawns in because they're not completely cooked all the way through yet. But when my traveling companion asked for butter sauce, that's basically what they made for him and stuck it in a separate saucer, just like a slightly thickened version of this sauce that I've just made. And it just looks like it had a tinge of yellow to it. And he was really, really worried about what it was going to taste like. Decided he absolutely loved it. So it goes to show, if he knew what he was in for, he never would have ordered it. But, you know, just as well. There you go. So I'm just going to simmer this for a couple of minutes. Very, very easy, as you can see. And you need, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 ingredients? Well, plus the seasoning. Of course, if you don't want to use chicken seasoning powder, you can just use, well, this is spicy because of the chilies. My mom's got some pretty vicious chilies. What my mom tends to do, she'll say, for instance, she might buy some store-bought chilies, and then, if it completely blows the roof off the top of her mouth, she'll decide, oh, this is great, I'm gonna save the seeds, I'm gonna plant it in the backyard. Okay, so invariably the batches of chilies that she's got tend to be very, very, very spicy. Okay, to her, those are the good ones. I generally, actually, with chilies, I like mine to be kind of like a little bit balanced. I like mild chilies and some not so mild ones. Okay, just gonna simmer this a little bit. It'd be nice if I had a lid, I would cover it, but it should cook through okay anyway. So you just want to like cook it to the point where it slightly thickens up. And it shouldn't take long at all. And then we're going to move on to the vegetables. And for the vegetables, in the absence of Sabah vegetable, or aka sayur manis, sweet vegetable, I'm using Chinese broccoli, or what we call kailan, okay? And I've got the stems here. I've cut them into, like, diagonally into slices so that they're not too thick and bulky, which would cause them to take a while to cook up. But this is just simmering. I'm just going to taste test this. The curry leaves would add a nice touch to it because if nothing else, it would just give it some, like, a little bit of color, a bit of green color. But also, curry leaves tend to have like a nice little peppery kind of like flavor about them as well. Okay, so this is just cooking along. Just about done. I'm going to get a plate to serve this up in. And it's just as well you can't see what's outside the perimeter of this screen because I've got laundry. If you think you can just barely make out laundry lines, you're right, they're laundry lines, okay? Because this is like I said, this is my mom's backyard. There you go. So this is thick enough. It's taken probably all of what, 5-10 minutes to cook up. So very, very easy to whip up. I'm going to take a photo of this so you can see what it looks like. And it's funny because there's a lot of like talk in the media sometimes or online about how Jamie Oliver's 15-minute meals actually don't take 15 minutes, they take you 45 minutes and whatever, and turn your kitchen upside down. You can see it when I say something on mine is quick and easy. It literally is quick and easy and very, very simple. Anyone can do this. Okay, hopefully you can see this. You know what, I'm going to throw some spring onion over the top of this because it looks a little bit one-dimensional. I was only in Sabah for about 2 days, really, and it's just a fantastic, fantastic place. If you ever go and visit it, check out the seafood. Sabah is known for its seafood. Look for something butter sauce. I have to say, people are going to say, well, butter sauce you can get all over Malaysia, which is true, but really I was just kind of like trying to point out the fact that, what Sabah is well known for is the seafood, and everywhere you went you can find butter sauce, whatever, prawns, crab, chicken, and that sort of stuff. If you've seen the pictures I've posted online in association with this event, you'll find that that was the meal we actually ate on our arrival in Sabah, and basically, you know, it seemed like 2 or 3 of them were actually just coated in butter sauce, which is very, very delicious, and as you can see, very easy to prepare. Well, there you go. That's my very first hangout on air using my brand spanking new broadband connection, which I was really worried about. Just before I flew out to Malaysia, I had to log another call because it seemed as though it was a little bit flaky, but thankfully it's held up. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you actually tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm doing Perak, which is the home, the state that Ipoh is located in. But I'm going to, I mean, you know, you think Ipoh, you think of some iconic Ipoh dishes. I'm not actually doing a dish from Ipoh, but you'll have to tune in tomorrow or look at my event announcement to find out more details about what I'm cooking. So yeah, I look forward to your company about this time tomorrow night. Ciao.